You got to charge premium fees before you think you're ready to charge premium fees. One of the first things they will tell you is your pricing is your positioning. And your positioning is integrated into your pricing.
Coffee's for closers only.
So we've established my proposal is sound in principle. Now we're just haggling over price.
Let's see how much we're going for on eBay.
Man, it's the same as Dunkin' Donuts. Costs 15 times the price.
Welcome to Impact Pricing, the podcast where we discuss pricing, value, and hopefully the relationship between the two. I'm Mark Stiving, and today our guest is David Newman. Here are 3 things you absolutely want to know about David before we start. He's been running his own business called Do It Marketing for 18 years. He's a business coach for speakers, and I took one of his courses a year or so ago. He's a speaker himself. He earned his CSP, Certified Speaking Professional. You could think of that as the Eagle Scout of speaking from National Speakers Association. And he hosts his own podcast called The Speaking Show. I have listened to all 85 episodes, and they are awesome. Welcome, David.
Hey, Mark, great to be here.
I am so excited to have you on. Normally, I interview other pricing experts, and today I'm talking with a market expert. We're going to talk about the market and how you actually do your job.
Yes.
Let's start with a little history, though. How or why did you move from speaking to helping speakers?
It was a real organic process. So I had my own speaking, training, and consulting business since 2001. And along the course there, I made every mistake in the book. I made the good ones twice. I finally started to get this dialed in. And other speakers and consultants were saying, well, David, can I pick your brain? Can I take you to lunch? Can I buy you coffee? Can I buy you dinner? So I had a lot of coffee, lunch, breakfast, and dinner with these folks. No money changed hands. And then one day, a career consultant friend of mine, who's still a friend to this day, says to me, you should do this professionally. You should do this full time. I said, I should do what full time? You should just help other independent professionals and speakers and consultants just like you. I said, that's a stupid idea. I'm not doing that. All those people are broke. I'm going back to my big corporate clients, QVC, Microsoft, IBM, Vanguard. No way. And he says to me, listen, you can either be awesome as a corporate consultant, or you can be awesome and help other experts and consultants. It's your choice. You're going to be an awesome professional either way. I'm just saying that you might have a lot more fun doing it with the small and solo thought-leading experts. And I thought about that, and that was such a profound turnaround in my thinking, this is around 2007, 2008, that I did, in fact, start to pivot my business. And I started small, and I started a kind of a side thing to my main corporate speaking and consulting. But within 3 years, by 2010, I had basically dedicated myself 100% to helping speakers, authors, consultants, and coaches raise their game. And the way I started this, Mark, I started by creating the program that I wish I myself had had access to 10 years prior.
That's the way it almost always works. And you know what's funny is if you ask you do a big corporate gig, you actually have a big impact on a big corporation, a VP is not going to come to you heartfeltly and say, David, thank you so much.
It's true.
You take a solopreneur and you make it so that they've doubled their income in a year. Oh my gosh, the gratitude that you get. And you make money too, but the gratitude and the good feelings are just amazing.
That, I would say, is the best part of doing this work. You can make a little tiny dent, like you said, Mark, in a big giant corporation, but you can literally change a solo business owner's life, career, marriage, bank account, future, retirement, etc.
Yeah. Okay, quickly, there's a rule in NSA. I don't know if it's written or not written, but we never talk about prices.
Yeah, but we're not at NSA.
Yeah, exactly. That's a rule that I ignore always because it's the only thing I talk about.
There you go.
So let's start with a pricing question for you. What's the biggest pricing problem that you think your clients face?
Undercharging. Undercharging, and I'm also going to say ignorance. There are way too, and this is across any sort of thought-leading business, coach, consultant, speaker, trainer. People are unaware of the going market rate. for speakers, authors, coaches, consultants. Even when we show them the quote unquote going market rate, average rate, whatever you want to call it, like, oh, that's for other people. You know, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm just starting out. So one of the dumbest questions, that's a total beautiful pricing question that I get all the time, David, what's a good rate? What's a good fee for a speaker just starting out? Now, I will get that question from a 40-year-old speaker, a 60-year-old speaker, and a 73-year-old speaker. And my argument, Mark, is that none of those three speakers are quote unquote just starting out. They're bringing anywhere from 20 to 50 years of hard-won expertise, experience, battle scars, lessons learned to the table. Even if it's their first paid speech, that should be probably a $10,000 to $15,000 program, because they shouldn't compare themselves to like, well, I'm doing a time management class for the first time. I guess I'll charge $1,200. You know, a former CEO, a former CMO, a former VP of finance, their quote unquote first speech, trust me, they are not going, I'm just going to charge $300. Any entrepreneur that goes out to, well, I'm not worthy yet. I have to write my book. I have to write my second book. I have to get my third PhD. I have to have my 17,000th hour of sample coaching before I'm ready. My pricing advice, my friends, and this is from a layman's term, non-pricing expert reporting for duty, you got to charge premium fees before you think you're ready to charge premium fees. Because Mark and all of his smart friends that were on this podcast before me, one of the first things they will tell you is your pricing is your positioning. And your positioning is integrated into your pricing. If someone dropped off a Ferrari on your front lawn and said, hey, I'll give this to you for $10,000, your first question would be, what's wrong with the car? You don't want someone thinking about you as a speaker. What's wrong with that guy? Why is he charging so little? Why is he so cheap? Is he going to show up drunk, show up late, start swearing a blue streak, start grabbing my staff and making inappropriate comments? Is this guy a walking, talking liability in a lawsuit? Because otherwise he should be charging at least X, but he's charging 1/3 of X. There must be something wrong.
Half of what you just said I've never thought about. But let's take an expert for a second. They've been working in industry forever. They're a CMO. They come out. Maybe it's their first paid speech. And you could take the speech and break it up into two chunks. You could say, here's the delivery, here's the content. Guess what? Content-wise, they're worth a ton. They're probably decent at delivery too, but content is just, do you think that people who are hiring speakers are buying content or are buying delivery? Obviously, they're buying both, but.
I'm going to give you a third slice on that. I don't think they're buying either, because content, no matter how great, no matter how brilliant, information is a commodity. If you wanted information, you would go to Google. If you wanted information, you would go to thousands of blogs or thousands of YouTube channels. If you wanted delivery, you would hire a juggler or a musician. You'd get James Taylor to come and do a concert at your big association event. What they're really buying is they're buying insight. They're buying insight. They're buying your personal recommendation, opinion, biases, slant. Information is a commodity. Insight is priceless. No pun intended here on the pricing podcast,
Yes.
of course. But what people really want, and what I think as thought leaders, it's our job to provide, is what are your peers, what are other experts and executives like you unwilling to say, unable to say, or actually afraid to say that is true in your industry about your topic. Maybe it's contrarian, maybe it's risky, maybe it's that kind of rebellious point of view, but you have to have something different, distinct, contrarian, and that will stand out from all the noise. Even if that's your turn of phrase, the way you talk about people. I mean, a great pricing moniker, which I never thought of as a pricing moniker until now, Mark, I say people that can't afford what you do are broke-ass losers. And I call them broke-ass losers. I don't say people that can't afford your fee, people that can't afford your rate. I shout it loud and proud on every webinar, every video, every live presentation that I do. I say, listen, there's a segment of the market that is not going to pay your price. We call them broke-ass losers, tire kickers, goofballs, price shoppers, people that you don't want to spend a single second with. Now, some people say, oh, he's so mean. He just called them a broke-ass loser. But I want people to leave that meeting and for months and months and years look at each other and say, well, we don't want to hire that. We don't want to hire this guy. He's a broke-ass loser. We don't want to serve that client. That client's a broke-ass loser. I want to infect their brain waves with my proprietary words, methodology, opinions, and insight. I don't want to say, oh, just work with people who can afford your fee. Every other moron is saying you can work with people that can afford your fee. I say, when you see a broke-ass loser, you run the other way and do everything you can to filter out the broke-ass losers, the goofballs, the tire kickers, the window shoppers. Okay. People remember that because it sticks.
I could just sit here and listen to you talk forever, David. I enjoy this. Two thoughts that come to mind off of what you just said. First off, you said influence, or you said insights.
Yes.
And notice that insight isn't delivery.
Correct.
Therefore, someone coming out of a CMO's job has insight. They could do that right now.
Insight and opinion and recommendation and their personal bias and slant.
The second thing that you said, or you actually didn't say it, but your description described it, and that is you really want influence. You want to be able to influence the audience, influence the customers, and you do that with the right words, the right phrases, the things that are going to stick in their mind.
Yes.
I thought that was brilliant. And if I take all this and turn it into a pricing frame of mind, that influence is truly differentiation. It's how is David Newman different from somebody else? How is it that you're going to make an audience change their way of thinking, where someone else is just going to give them information? I'm an information guy. I don't change people's minds.
Well, I'm going to disagree because remember, in my model, there's 3 different speaker value propositions. There's a performer, there's a teacher, and there's a catalyst. So you and I, we're not performers necessarily. In other words, even if we perform well, we're not hired for the show. We're not hired for the performance. We're hired for content, like you said. So that's the teacher model. And when you provoke someone's thinking, Mark, and they go home and they say, you know what? We may be doing our pricing the wrong way. Or we may want to add a wrinkle or a new level to our pricing strategy. Now you're a catalyst. And I think everyone needs to know where they fall on that spectrum of, are you hired primarily as a performer? Are you hired primarily as a teacher, meaning you're conveying content in a way that's intriguing and different and sticky? Or are you a catalyst where you're actually making change happen in that audience, either right there in the room or soon after they go home? One of the biggest compliments that I've gotten, and sometimes we talk about web marketing and headlines and marketing copy, and so people come up to me after a program, Mark, they say, I had my laptop open, I was making changes to my website as you were talking. That is a catalyst statement. I said something about here's what you should have on your website, here's what you should never have on your website, and this person opened the laptop, logged into their web server, tap, 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 hit save, hit publish, hit the send button, even over bad hotel Wi-Fi, and they were making changes in the ballroom.
Nice. That's actually having an impact right on the spot. Absolutely love that. Early on in our conversation, you brought up the fact that people who are just coming into the speaking world, regardless of their level of expertise, don't understand what the market would pay, essentially. They don't understand their value. And I told you this story on your podcast. I'm going to say it again because I don't think I've ever said it on my own podcast. But when I first wrote my book, somebody called and said, hey, would you give a speech? I said, yes. And they said, how much do you charge? And I had no idea how to figure that out. And this has got to be the hardest thing in the world for someone who doesn't know a marketplace to figure out what price should I charge. How do you answer that? Or how does someone figure that out? By the way, the information you give your students is phenomenal. But how do you figure this out?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, think about it. I want to go to a different world of pricing, which is commodity pricing, which of course, as speakers and experts, we really try and stay away from.
Absolutely.
Let's say that you genetically engineer the world's greatest banana. If you don't study banana prices and what do cheap bananas go for, what do American bananas, California bananas, Mexican bananas, Dominican Republic bananas, if you don't know what a bushel of bananas goes for, you've got no point of reference.
Yep.
Am I coming in cheap? Am I coming in middle? Am I coming in high? Am I coming in super premium at the top of the market with my new genetically engineered super duper banana with a guaranteed non-slip banana peel? You would have no point of reference. So I think the first thing people need to do to answer your question, which is, well, how much should I charge? What's the going rate? Is do a competitive scan. And you have to really be a student of the game. Figure out what are other experts and executives charging and getting for similar content at similar venues where you want to present. Now, I'm always a believer in premium pricing, that you want to be at least, you don't want to be near the bottom. You don't want to be in the kind of the middle, the average. You want to be kind of upper middle class. You want to be somewhere between a Lexus, high-end Lexus and a low-end Mercedes. You don't need to be crazy. We're not going to be doing Rolls-Royce pricing and, $400,000 sedans. But you want to be in speaker terms. You want to be somewhere between that nice Lexus and that entry-level Mercedes. What that means to you and me, because we're not at NSA, is somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000. That's kind of the beginning baseline. Notice I said beginning, and notice I said baseline. Now, when people come into our program, Mark, that you've been through, they do a competitive scan, like, oh my God, no one's making less than $12,000. Why am I charging $5,000? And they literally say, I found this person. They're no better than me. They're no smarter than me. They have a self-published book. I have a traditionally published book. They've been doing this for 5 years. I've been doing this for 8 years. This person's getting and charging $12,000. I need to be at least getting and charging $12,000. And they immediately up-level what they're doing simply because the market data says if you do any less than that, you are underpricing yourself. So I think the more clarity and the more transparency and the more research that you do about what's the going rate in your market, in your topic, for your level of expertise, you will be shocked. You'll be shocked and stunned about how much you should be getting, because we always underprice ourselves and we always overestimate the value that others deliver. And when you go to a lot of conferences, you see these speakers, you're like, wait a second, I was better than him. I was better than her. They got paid how much? That's the visceral wake-up call that changes a lot of people's pricing almost overnight.
How many times do we watch speakers and know that they're not as good as we are, and yet they made more money? Like, really? Yes. That makes no sense.
And the only difference, and this is not, this is not across the board, of course, but the only difference in speaker land is a different number left their lips.
Yep. Here's what's fascinating. I'm going to take what you just described and I'm going to put it in pricing terms for just a second. Our buyers, who are meeting planners or event planners or corporate people that are setting up the meetings that they're going to have, our buyers have to make a decision about the speakers. And which speaker am I going to go buy? They're now making a which one decision. And what we have to be as speakers, because we are the product, we're also the business people behind the product, but what we have to be as speakers is understanding what that decision is that that buyer is making. If we're more expensive, are we better and are we worth it? And if we're less expensive, does it look like we're less good? This is really hard.
Yeah. Well, think about a halo effect of any expensive item. I know I'm talking baby talk here to your audience of pricing gurus, but expensive and premium pricing also has a halo effect around it where they say, well, this product, it must be better because it's more expensive. Think about a bottle of wine, think about a watch, think about anything that you'd want to buy. It must be better. It must be more reliable. It must be more delicious. More people must buy it because that's the price in the window. So if I'm thinking that's too expensive, there are other people that are happy to pay it. What's wrong with me?
Somebody
so better,
else,
faster, smarter, cooler. That's the halo effect of premium pricing.
Yeah. If somebody else paid $10,000, he must be worth $10,000. Come on, really? Okay. So I got to say that you're pretty smart about this pricing thing, at least in your industry. We'll give you that much. Rumor has it you used to charge a lot less. Is that true?
Yes. Well, the product evolved, but I literally went through a 10x price increase, and then a little bit more, even 12, 13, 13x. So coaching and mentoring went from one-on-one to group, from group live led, meaning it had a start date and an end date. And this is where I was charging maybe $777 for a 7-week live led program that started on date X, fast forward 7 weeks, ended on date Y. Then I created an online course. The online course was a little bit more expensive, $1,200, $1,500. Then we added mentorship. Then we added done for you services. Then we added a team. So my team of other marketers, copywriters, sales strategists. So now, if I look at the way that the price was at $777, and these prices are constantly going up, by the way, but I'm happy to give you the pricing now. It's anywhere from $10,000 to $12,000. And is it essentially the same core product? It is. Have we enhanced it? Have we multiplied it? Have we fine-tuned it, tweaked it, etc.? Yes. But I would argue, and many people have told me, including our mutual friend Bryn, by the way, Bryn Tillman, our awesome LinkedIn expert, she says, David, you're undercharging for this course. And this is when I was undercharging for the course. She says, it's worth at least 10 times. I have this as a testimonial, Mark. You'll love this. You should charge at least 10 times as much. Little did I know the prophetic words of our mutual friend. I did charge 10 times that much, and then 13 times that much. And then here we are today. And it may even go up again. The more value that we add, and I know that you're a huge proponent, not just jacking up prices, but jacking up value. We want this, and in my opinion, it is the market-leading product of its kind, the market-leading service of its kind. If I want to get ahead and stay ahead, I'm only going to add more to it. I'm going to make it bigger, better, bolder, more robust, easier to implement, more done for you, done with you services. It's going to be a results machine, because any product, any service, any program, if we're so focused on the inputs that we lose sight of the result, because no one's buying your widget and no one's buying your service and no one's buying your speech. What they're buying is the outcome of hiring you. We are hell-bent on outcomes. And we do everything we can, hiring people, investing money, spending on our clients and our program, so that it's still very profitable for us, but even more profitable for the client.
Yeah, absolutely. Can I give you a quick pricing lesson? Is that fair?
Please do.
Earlier, I said that our buyers are making a which one decision. I think your buyers are making a different decision. Your buyers are making a will I decision. I can tell you that when I signed up for your course, I didn't think about anybody else. I wouldn't even have known who else to go to. There wasn't a competitor there. It was just, I think I paid $7,500.
Yeah.
Do I think this is worth $7,500 or not? The answer is absolutely yes. It's worth way more than $7,500, which is why I paid you $7,500 for the course.
Yeah.
The point being, your buyers making will I decisions are less price sensitive. And you can jack up the price even without adding more value, because I don't know what the value used to be. Here's what matters is that you find people who, when you deliver your program, they get a lot of value. And the people who don't get a lot of value, those are, I think we heard them called broke ass losers.
Yes, I love that guy.
So I'm impressed. I really like what you do.
Well, another soundbite that I'm not sure where I got it from, it's not an original to me, but it's very, very true. When people pay more, they pay more attention.
Yep. That's absolutely true. And they value your product more just because they paid more.
And then they implement more, and then they get more results. So actually, in our world of coaching and mentoring, the more they pay, the more results they get. So even if you increase the price of your program, by default, you're also increasing the value of the program, because now people will take themselves more seriously. They will apply themselves more. They will implement more. And by extension, they will get better results because of your premium pricing.
Yep, absolutely. From a personal note, I love raising prices when we can deliver value and capture it. However, I also really appreciate the fact that you care about the outcomes, not just making money. Because that
totally
just makes you a better human being, if I could say that.
Absolutely. Well, and I think in like a lot of folks in our coaching and consulting and speaking industry, we can't afford to have unsuccessful clients. So imagine someone says, oh yeah, I came to that Mark Stiving workshop and yeah, it didn't really do much for me. I didn't get much out of it. It's like, well, you didn't do any of the work. You didn't implement Mark's strategies. You didn't make the decisions, the hard decisions that Mark is going to force you to make. And you went home and you didn't take a single action. So of course you quote unquote didn't get it. So the question I like to ask is whenever someone complains about any program, did that program let you down or did you let down that program?
Did you do the work?
Yeah. Did you do the work?
Yeah. Hey, we're going to have to start to wrap this up, but can I ask one last question?
Sure thing.
What's one piece of pricing advice you would give our listeners or your marketplace would be fine too, that you think could have a big impact on their business?
In my experience, Mark, people buy who they are. They really buy who they are. There are passengers on an airplane that always fly economy, would never think of business class or first class because it doesn't match their identity. It's not who they are. There are people that are always going to fly first class. When they are thinking about flying coach or economy, they start getting itchy. It's like, no, I don't want to go back there with those people. That's not who I am anymore. So you need to understand there's always going to be the top of a market. The top of a market always buys the top of the line product. The middle of the market always buys the middle of the line product. And the economy shopper is always going to buy the economy choice. It's not their selection, it's their identity. So when you're not offering something at a premium price, I guarantee you that you're leaving money on the table because the people that want the biggest and the best and the most expensive, if they don't see it with you, they're going to go find it with somebody else. So people buy who they are, and you will never turn a Timex shopper into a Rolex customer.
That makes all the sense in the world. And just to add a little nuance to that as well, if all you have is to sell your time, you'd better get the most dollars per hour that you can possibly get.
Amen.
So, David, thank you so much for your time today. If anyone wants to contact you, how can they do that?
Best place is to pop over to the main website, doitmarketing.com. And there's all kinds of resources, downloads, books, ebooks, freebies, webinars. There is a masterclass available for folks that want to look at their speaking a little bit more intensively. That's at doitmarketing.com/webinar.
Excellent. Thank you, David. And for our listeners, just wanted to let you know, my team and I, we created a B2B subscription pricing course. For now, it's available live at your facility. If you'd like to learn more, please drop me a note. And episode 18 done. Woohoo! David was fabulous. I get a thrill just out of listening to him talk. His vocal variety is amazing. I learned a ton today. I hope you did too. If you got value out of the podcast, would you please help us out? Subscribe, leave a review, tell a friend. Every little bit helps, and we're extremely appreciative. Feel free to send any suggestions or questions directly to me, mark@impactpricing.com. And don't forget to listen next week to another episode of Impact Pricing.